Marry your bookies. That's all she said before she left. She dumped me for a sneaker store manager, thinking she was marrying into money. What didn't she know? That it was the last defeat in my life. Because sometimes rock bottom isn't a grave, it's a springboard. This is the story of how my cheating ex tried to break me, but ended up watching from the sidelines as I built an empire. But the most interesting thing is that she came back 3 years later. I let her. And what I said to her shocked her and made her shut up forever. It was sweet revenge. All of this is funny, of course, but let's go back to the beginning. Amanda and I met in the least romantic way imaginable at the DMV. I was waiting to renew my license after losing my wallet at a construction site, and she was standing in line in front of me, tapping her red nails on the counter like every second wasted there personally offended her. She turned around, locked eyes with me, and said, "I swear, this place is where patience goes to die." I laughed. She smirked. That was it. A year later, we were married. Fast? Maybe. But Amanda had a way of making you feel like you were behind schedule if you didn't keep up with her. She moved fast, talked fast, made decisions without blinking. She was gorgeous, no doubt about that. Long black hair that always looked like it belonged in a shampoo commercial, those high cheekbones, and lips that were always painted this deep crimson shade, like she stepped out of a catalog. Now, I'm not saying I was a saint. I've never been the suit anti-office guy. I've always worked with my hands, construction, drywall, apartment renovations, whatever came along. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid. And on the side, I was deep into sports forecasting. I'm talking spreadsheets, trends, player stats, especially NBA and tennis. I could tell you who was due for a comeback, which rookie was overrated, and how a court surface would affect serve speed. I placed bets. Not huge ones, not irresponsible, okay. Sometimes a little irresponsible, but never out of control. Some days I'd win a few hundred, other days I'd lose it right back. Amanda hated that. She'd call it fantasy gambling, like it was some kind of video game I refused to grow out of. Told me I needed a real job, as if the money I brought home from laying tile didn't count. But she never complained when I covered groceries or rent. She liked having her nails done, her hair colored, that boutique coffee she ordered online that came in little pouches like it was sacred. And I paid for half of it. Sometimes more. At first, it was just arguments. She'd roll her eyes if I had a game on, sigh dramatically when I was making notes in my prediction log. Once, she even unplugged the TV in the middle of a Bucks game just to get my attention. That led to a 2-day Cold War where we didn't talk, just passed each other in the apartment like ghosts. Then she started working more. Amanda was a sales associate at this women's fashion store in the mall. Not high-end, but expensive enough to make people feel like they were buying something elite. She was good at it. She knew how to flatter women into spending $150 on a blouse and make them feel like it was their idea. I started noticing she was staying later. Said they were reorganizing inventory or doing floor updates. One night, she came home smelling like a cologne I don't wear. When I asked about it, she said it was from a new perfume sample they were testing. I didn't say anything, but I remembered it. Little things started adding up. She put her phone face down on the counter. Kept it on silent. Her mood got weird too. Hot and cold. One day, she'd call me baby and ask if I wanted Chinese for dinner. The next, she'd act like my breathing was an inconvenience. I'd ask how her day went, and she'd snap. Fine. Can we not do the whole, how was your day thing every night? It was like living with a stranger who occasionally slipped on my wife's skin. The breaking point came one night when she said she had to close late. I ordered pizza, waited up with the game on, just wanting to hang out like we used to. Midnight rolls around. No sign of her. I call, goes straight to voicemail. She walks in at 12:47 a.m., smelling like sweat and aftershave, not a box of heels in sight. She said nothing, just kicked her shoes off and went straight to the shower. I sat on the couch, TV still glowing, pizza cold, realization setting in. Something had changed. Something was gone, and I had no clue how deep it went yet. In a day, she entered the door at around 9 p.m. I figured maybe she'd come in hot with some story about the store staying open late for a clearance event or her boss needing help closing out inventory. I was already mentally bracing for another half-hearted excuse. But she didn't say anything. Not at first. She walked in fast, heels clicking on the laminate like a gavel, went straight to the dining table, pulled a manila folder from her oversized purse, and let it slap down on the wood like she was dropping a bill for a meal I didn't remember ordering. Then, without even turning to look at me, she said, "Marry your bookies." That was it. 3 words. No yelling. No tears. No drama. Just a sentence sharp enough to cut the air in half. She turned around, grabbed her purse, walked back out the door, and closed it behind her. Not slammed. Not soft. Just closed it, neat and final, like she was done with a shift and clocking out of her last day. I noticed the apartment. Her things were gone. It turns out I was so absorbed in the computer that I didn't even notice her slowly taking everything out. Only a few clothes remained in the closet. I didn't move for a second. I didn't ask where she was going, didn't yell after her, didn't follow her down the hall. I walked over to the table and looked at the folder. Divorce papers. Signed on her end. A line right through what we had built together. No letter, no note. Just a cold, clean break. I stood there reading the details. We'd been married 2 years. Nothing fancy. No kids. No house. No shared debt. Just a rental apartment, one joint bank account with about $86 in it, and a toaster. I said out loud, not to anyone, just to the room, good riddance. And I meant it. Because deep down, I think I saw it coming. Maybe not this soon, and not like that, but I'd felt it crawling toward me for months. The lies had been stacking like poker chips, and she just cashed them all in with one sentence. I spent the next few days in a haze. Not angry. Not even really sad. Just tired. I went through the motions: work, food, sports research, sleep, repeat. I didn't text her. She didn't call. It was like she evaporated. But you know what was still there? Her toothbrush. That's what got me. She left it sitting in the cup by the sink, like it was too unimportant to bother with. Like she wanted me to look at it every day and remember she used to be there. Maybe she forgot it. Or maybe she left it on purpose. A week later, I got the full story, at least the part that mattered. Turns out Amanda had been seeing some guy from the mall. His name was Brad. Worked at the sneaker store across from hers. Mid-30s. Balding a little, wore boot-cut jeans and polos with those dumb stitch logos. The type who'd brag about employee discounts like they were a stock portfolio. I didn't even hear it from her. I found out from one of her coworkers, this girl named Gina, who randomly followed me on my sports page. She messaged me after I posted a video breaking down a clay court upset in a tennis tournament. Gina said something like, "Sorry about Amanda. She's been sneaking around with Brad for a while. Everyone at the mall knew. Figured you did too." I didn't know. I suspected something was up, sure. But not that. Not Brad. The same guy I'd seen once or twice when I came by to pick her up. According to Gina, it had been going on for months. Lunch breaks. Inventory nights. One time they were late opening her store because they'd been locked in the back room together. I should have felt rage. But I didn't. I just felt like I'd been walking through a house thinking everything was fine, only to find out the foundation was termites and rot. She didn't even have the decency to come clean. Just filed, walked, and let someone else take the hit. I spent that night at home, lights off, just thinking. Thinking about how someone you love can stand right next to you and already be gone. Thinking about what to do next. And I'll tell you this much, I wasn't going to fall apart for a woman who left her marriage like it was a bad haircut appointment. She made her move. Now it was my turn. The thing about divorce when you don't have much is that it feels more like a checkout line than a courtroom battle. There wasn't anything to fight over. No house. No car. No savings account with anything worth mentioning. Just a rented one-bedroom apartment, a couple pieces of second-hand furniture, and some kitchen appliances we picked out when things still felt hopeful. It was the quietest courthouse trip I'd ever taken. We didn't ride there together, obviously. I took the bus. Amanda must have had Brad drive her, because she showed up in a gray Toyota Camry that looked like it had won 2 mini air fresheners hanging from the mirror. I remember she stepped out like she was walking into a spa. Not a courtroom, sunglasses on, hair perfectly done, like she was trying to win best dressed in a breakup story. We sat on opposite sides of the waiting area. No eye contact. No small talk. I watched a ceiling tile with a brown water stain while she flipped through her phone, probably texting Brad, or Gina, or her sister, or all three. When our names were called, it was fast. Routine. Like a grocery store clerk ringing up 2 lonely items and not asking if you want a bag. The judge barely looked up. "You're both in agreement on division of property?" "Yes, Your Honor," she said. "Come as you like." I nodded. There wasn't anything to split. She got the toaster, the grill, a few plates and mugs. I kept the TV and my old laptop. That laptop had been dropped twice, cracked screen in the corner, spacebar that needed a hard press to register. But it still ran my stats software and loaded betting sites, so to me it was gold. The whole thing took maybe 25 minutes. When the judge signed off, it was like flipping a light switch. 2 years of marriage undone with a flick of the pen. Amanda turned to me as we walked out, and for the first time that day, she spoke directly to me. She gave this little smirk, like someone who just negotiated a good deal on a used car, and said, "Good luck, Jake." Then she walked straight to that Camry, where Brad was waiting in the driver's seat, sunglasses on like he was some kind of getaway driver. She slid into the passenger seat, didn't even glance back, and they pulled out of the lot. I stood there for a second, watching the taillights disappear through the exit. I walked home. The air felt heavy. I had no umbrella, but the sky held off. Just gray clouds and wind. The kind of weather that makes you think something's about to start, but it just doesn't. Like it's waiting on you. I passed the same coffee shop we used to visit on Sunday mornings. They had a "Fall in Love with Fall" sign out front, all pumpkins and cinnamon. Amanda loved that place. I didn't stop. When I got back to the apartment, it was quiet. I sat on the couch, turned on the TV, and stared at the home screen for a while. Then I picked up my laptop. The charger was still hanging by one wire, bent from years of careless handling. I had to wiggle it just right to get the thing to turn on. When the screen lit up, I went straight to the betting exchange. I didn't feel like going out. I didn't feel like calling anyone. I didn't feel much at all, really. Just tired and hollow, like I'd been punched, but the pain hadn't landed yet. So I opened my spreadsheet, checked injury reports, looked at home versus away stats. Noticed the Celtics were playing that weekend. I said to myself, quiet, like I was testing the thought, let's see what the Celtics are doing. Not because I needed a win, not even for the money, just because I needed to feel like something made sense again. The numbers were still there. The odds still moved. The world hadn't stopped. Only she had. And maybe, just maybe, that was exactly what I needed. It was a Saturday. The first one I had fully to myself in over 2 years. Not peaceful, not yet, but quiet in a way that gave me space to think. I opened my spreadsheet. NBA matchups. Injury reports. Player fatigue from back-to-back games. A few tennis tournaments, indoor hard courts, surface speeds, historical win rates by country. Everything looked normal, like the rest of the world hadn't noticed my personal life had collapsed. So I built a bet. Not just a casual pick. A 5-leg express. I'd done them before, but never with real confidence. This time, though, something was different. I wasn't just guessing or chasing adrenaline. I was locked in. Focused in a way I hadn't been in months. It was $100. Odds totaled out to just under 89. A long shot, sure, but every leg made sense. I backed underdogs where the public was wrong. Faded inflated lines. Looked for edge where nobody else would. And somehow, every leg hit. Boom. $8,900 payout. I stared at the screen like it might evaporate if I blinked too hard. It didn't feel real. I didn't scream or jump up and down. I just leaned back on the couch and stared at the ceiling fan, watching the blades spin. I split $4,000 across different sport books. I opened accounts with 4 new ones, took advantage of their promos, and started building what felt like a proper bankroll. The rest I kept on hand, just in case. From there, I went to work. Not construction work. My work. I got serious about tracking. Built a new spreadsheet that covered more variables: player rest days, referee tendencies, elevation effects, shooting percentages on specific court sites. I built a personal tracker to compare odds movement between different books to spot when something looked fishy. I started watching line movement like a hawk. When one book had a team at plus 210 and another had the same team at minus 180, I dug in. Arbitrage opportunities. Little cracks in the system. I wasn't just guessing anymore. I was hunting. I lived on caffeine and stubbornness. Slept weird hours. Ate more frozen burritos than I should admit. But I was dialed in. I built a basic site and offered a weekend picks package. $5 for my top plays. Didn't expect much. Sold 3 in the first week. The next weekend, I added a $10 option for midweek NBA picks. Sold 8. By the end of the month, I had 22 regulars. Guys messaging me asking for insight, screenshots of their wins, some calling me a wizard. I wasn't. I just finally stopped making bets based on hope and started treating it like work. And I worked. I woke up early, checked lines before most people brewed coffee, compared live odds while brushing my teeth, took notes on post-game interviews to see which coaches were hiding injuries. I followed beat reporters like they were gospel. It wasn't glamorous. No high-rise office or boardroom meetings. Just a guy with a busted laptop, a barely working chair, and a notepad covered in scribbles. But it was mine. I started charging $20 for monthly packages. And people paid. Not because I promised miracles. I didn't. I just showed my record, stayed honest, and proved I knew what I was doing. Slowly but surely, it started to snowball. What used to be side cash became steady. I stopped looking at my bank app with anxiety. The numbers started going the right direction for once. Even the little things, having a meal that wasn't from a box, being able to fix the faucet without worrying about rent, those were wins. I didn't feel like I was chasing something anymore. I felt like I was building something. I was still alone, still cleaning up the mess Amanda left behind. But for the first time in a long time, I felt like I wasn't losing anymore. And man, that felt good. By the third month, I had 52 subscribers. It started to feel like a little community. Not huge, not flashy, but solid. People were winning, and more importantly, they were trusting me. I never sold some miracle system. I never guaranteed anything. I just said, here's what I think. Here's why. And for most of them, that was enough. I'd wake up, check lines, run my numbers, and write out my plays for the day. Then I'd email my picks out before noon. No frills, just the facts. No fake hype. If I wasn't confident in a slate, I'd say that. Some days I skipped entirely. Told folks to take a breath. That honesty earned me more loyalty than any hot streak could. But the wins? They were piling up. I was hitting enough that the books started noticing. At first, I thought it was a coincidence when one of my accounts got limited. Suddenly, I couldn't bet more than $50. I figured maybe I'd just gotten flagged for some bonus abuse or something minor. Then a second account got restricted. Then a third. Then one just banned me altogether. No warning. Net. Negative. Risk. I didn't even know that was a term before then. That's when I knew I'd made it. It wasn't about hitting some giant jackpot. It was the moment I realized they didn't want my money because they knew I was more likely to take theirs. That same day, I stopped placing my own bets altogether. I didn't need to gamble anymore. I wasn't chasing anything. The real value wasn't the adrenaline rush of a buzzer beater or a breakpoint win. It was the work behind it. The research. The patterns. The edge I'd built through sweat and stubbornness. I restructured everything. No more personal bets. I focused 100% on my subscribers. Built out the back end of the site better. Organized the emails. Added notes on bankroll management. Raised the monthly fee to $49.99. Nobody blinked. Some said I was undercharging. I was making over 50 grand a month. All clean. All legit. No ladder to climb. No time cards. No supervisor breathing down my neck because I was 2 minutes late from a lunch break. I didn't flash it around. Didn't buy chains or post my bank balance anywhere. That wasn't me. I still wore jeans with drywall stains. I still used the same old laptop with the cracked corner. I still ate boxed mac and cheese twice a week out of habit. But I had breathing room. That was the real payoff. I quit construction for good. Told a few of the guys I used to work with that I was working remote now. Left it at that. They asked if I needed help getting back into the union, and I told them thanks, but I was good. Truth was, I hadn't picked up a hammer in weeks. I packed up my toolbox and stuck it in the back of the closet. Not out of disrespect, but because I'd earned the right to move on. That box fed me for years. Built other people's homes while I was trying to hold together my own life. But now, I had a different set of tools. I still kept to a schedule. Got up early. Worked late. Didn't slack just because the money came easier. I treated it like a job because it was. A real one. Maybe not what Amanda would have called a real job, but I wasn't answering to her anymore. There was a different kind of satisfaction that came from seeing my name mentioned in forums, or when subscribers told me they'd finally covered rent because of my picks. I never thought I'd have that kind of impact. I was just a guy with a knack for numbers and a stubborn streak a mile long. Looking back, it was funny. The thing Amanda had hated the most, the betting, the stats, the games, was the very thing that saved me. The one thing she said I needed to grow out of turned out to be the exact thing I grew into. And for once, I wasn't trying to prove anything to her. I was just proving it to myself. I never thought I'd miss the smell of motor oil. But after a couple years of sitting behind a laptop all day, grinding through stats, numbers, and line movements, I started to feel this pull, like I needed to work with my hands again. So I took some of the money I'd stashed, quietly, over time, and opened a small auto repair shop on the south side of town. Nothing fancy. Just 3 bays, a used lift, and a break room with a microwave that always smelled like popcorn and burnt coffee. I didn't advertise big, just put a sign out front and let word of mouth do its thing. Hired 2 guys, Miguel, who I used to work with years ago on a commercial plumbing site, and Kenny, a kid barely out of trade school but sharp with diagnostics and good with customers. We opened at 8, closed at 5, and were packed by the second week. Turns out, people like an honest mechanic, especially one who doesn't treat them like idiots and doesn't upsell windshield wipers during every oil change. I priced things fair, treated everyone like I'd want to be treated if I walked into a shop with a clunking sound under my hood and no clue where it was coming from. The shop exploded. By the end of the first year, I had to hire 2 more mechanics just to keep up. I bought a second location on the other side of town, in an old tire shop that had gone under. Renovated it, added new lifts, cleaned out the office, and hung the same plain white sign out front. Now with 2 dots on the map, I continued to sell predictions and analyze games in the evenings. This still brought in income every month, stable, reliable, and mostly automated thanks to the systems I had set up. All of this helped me earn money and save up. But the workshop gave me something else. Something real. Something I could stand in the middle of and say, I built this with my hands and my brain. Within 3 years of the divorce, I had 4 workshops, 1 on each corner of the city. I bought a house. Nothing too flashy. Just a clean 2-story with a deck out back, some land, and a driveway big enough to host a weekend barbecue. I also bought a car. Not just any car, a silver Mercedes coupe. Sleek, quiet, smooth like butter on the highway. I used it for poker nights with the guys. Pulled up to those games like someone who finally had his act together. Sometimes I'd catch my reflection in storefronts as I parked and think, this is a long way from drywall dust and split rent. Then came the call. It was a woman from one of those local lifestyle magazines. You know the type. They do fluff pieces on bakery owners and dog yoga studios. She said someone had recommended me for their entrepreneur spotlight. At first, I thought it was a prank. But she was serious. She came by the workshop, took photos of me under a hood, did a little interview in my office while Kenny handled the front desk. I answered her questions honest and plain. Told her how I went from odd jobs and spreadsheets to 4 auto shops and a steady following. Near the end, she asked what motivated the change. What really flipped the switch? And I didn't hesitate. I looked her in the eye and said, none of this would have happened if my wife hadn't left. She took herself out of the equation. That was the first winning bet I made. She paused, wrote it down word for word, and thanked me. The article came out 2 weeks later. Cover story: The Road to Success, from Underdog to Oil and Odds King. It showed a photo of me leaning against the Mercedes, arms crossed, grease on my shirt. I didn't think anyone I used to know would read it. But apparently, someone did. Amanda. I don't know exactly how it reached her. Maybe a friend. Maybe she saw it shared online. Maybe she was just curious one night and searched my name. But however it happened, I knew she saw it. Because after that, everything started moving in a direction I never expected. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't just feel like I was doing okay. I felt like I'd won. It was a Thursday afternoon, regular workday. We were changing out the brakes on a Civic and trying to track down a weird grinding noise coming from an old pickup someone dropped off that morning. I was in the back, hands covered in grease, when Sam poked his head into the garage. Hey, boss, he said, chewing on a toothpick like always. There's a woman out front asking for you. I wiped my hands on a rag and headed to the front, thinking it might be a customer or maybe someone dropping off a delivery. But it wasn't. It was Amanda. She was standing just inside the waiting area, arms folded, shifting her weight like she didn't know whether she wanted to be there or not. Her hair was tied up. I was just checking in, she said, like we were old friends bumping into each other at a grocery store. I raised an eyebrow. Didn't know I was on your list. She laughed, but it was strained. I saw the magazine article, she said. Didn't expect it, honestly. Sam, not picking up on the awkward tension, stepped in and said, You want me to get your number for him? She nodded before I could say anything. Sam scribbled it on a sticky note and handed it to me later. I didn't think I'd use it, but that night, as I was locking up, I found myself looking at it again. I texted her around 9. Said, If you want to talk, we can grab dinner. Just talking. She replied almost instantly. Tomorrow. Sure, I wrote back. 6:30, you pick the place. She chose a quiet Italian spot on the edge of town. Nothing fancy, but nice enough for a sit-down meal without paper napkins. I pulled into the parking lot in my Mercedes. She was already there when I walked in. Hair down this time, makeup on, wearing a black blouse I recognized from back when we were together. She looked good. Still had that polished glow. But something was off. The confidence she used to wear like armor wasn't there. She looked nervous, maybe even uncertain. Amanda, uncertain. That was new. We sat down, ordered food, made small talk. I let her lead. She asked about the shops, the article, how I'd managed to grow everything so fast. I told her the truth. Hard work, patience, and a whole lot of long nights. Then she started opening up. Said Brad left her 6 months after they moved in together. Said he wasn't who she thought he was. That he couldn't handle her moods. That he wanted someone more low maintenance. That's how she put it. Like she was a car that just needed better oil. I didn't say much. Just listened. She told me she was working at an ice cream cart now. One of those mobile stands they put at parks and outdoor malls. She said it was temporary, but I didn't get the feeling she believed it. She mentioned she was staying with her parents while she got things figured out. At one point, she looked at me and said, "You're doing really well. I'm proud of you, Jake." I nodded. "Thanks." Then she paused, looked down at her hands, twisted the napkin around her fingers like she was trying to keep them busy. "I made a mistake," she said finally. "A big one." I didn't say anything. "I thought I was trading up," she continued. "But I wasn't. I was just running away from something I didn't understand. You were always good to me. I just didn't know how to appreciate it." Still, I stayed quiet. Then came the part one knew was coming. "I miss you. I still think about you. I was wrong. About everything. And I still." She stopped herself, swallowed hard, and said it anyway. "I still love you." She said it slow, like it took effort. I looked at her for a long moment. She was still beautiful. Still had that spark. Still had the same sharp tongue, the same eyes that could make you feel 2 inches tall or 10 feet tall, depending on the day. But something inside me didn't move. I smiled. Just a small one. "I believe you," I said. She smiled back. Her shoulders dropped like she was relieved. Like something good had finally started again. But I wasn't sure she understood what I really meant. Not yet. After dinner, I asked if she wanted to come back to my place. Amanda didn't hesitate. She smiled, nodded, and grabbed her purse like it was all falling perfectly into place. We drove in silence most of the way. She looked out the window, and I kept my hands steady on the wheel. No music, no small talk. The house was clean. I'd spent most of that morning tidying up. Not for her, more for myself. She walked in slowly, looked around like she was trying to figure out where she fit in. She kicked off her shoes and sat on the edge of the couch. I made us pasta. Nothing fancy, just something I'd picked up from watching cooking videos. Butter, garlic, some red pepper flakes, a splash of white wine. I had a small bottle saved for the occasion. She lit the candles on the table without asking, like muscle memory. I played some old music, instrumental stuff I used to listen to when I was bedding late into the night. It filled the air just enough to keep things from being too quiet. We ate slowly, talked about neutral things. She complimented the food, said she missed nights like this. She looked around the kitchen a few times like she was trying to place herself back inside it, like she could just step back into the life she'd tossed aside. After dinner, I turned the lights down low, took her hand, and pulled her into the living room. We danced, just swayed back and forth on the old wood floors that creaked every time you shifted weight. She rested her head against my chest, and I let her. I didn't say much. I didn't need to. Later, we sat on the porch. She told me she couldn't believe how far I'd come. Said she was proud of me. Said she regretted the way things ended. I just nodded. Every now and then, you have to let someone talk even if you've already made up your mind. When it got late, we headed inside. That night reminded me of the past. After that, the sofa started creaking. In the morning, I got up early. Made coffee the way she used to like it, cream first, 2 sugars, no spoon. I remembered how she used to swirl it herself, like she had to take control of every little thing. She walked into the kitchen in one of my old shirts, trying to look casual like it was all natural again. Her hair was a little messy. She smiled, hopeful, soft, like we'd hit the reset button. I set the mug down in front of her. Then I leaned on the counter and said, clear as day, "Drink your coffee. Then get out of my house. In my life. Forever." Her smile froze. Eyes blinked once. She looked confused, like I was speaking another language. "I didn't bring you here to forgive you," I said. "I just wanted to remember how far I've come." She didn't say anything at first. Then the tears started. She begged. Asked why I'd do that. Said I used her, said I led her on. Called it cruel. I just shook my head. You're the one who walked out, remember? I said. She stood there holding the coffee like it was all that was keeping her upright. Then she stormed off. Slammed the bedroom door as she grabbed her things. Left without saying another word. I watched her from the front window as she called a cab. She didn't look back. I waited until the taillights were gone, then I got in my car and headed to the shop. Sam was already there, as usual, drinking gas station coffee and working through the early appointment list. I nodded at him, threw on my work shirt, and got to it. It felt good to be around engines again. No drama. Just machines. Things that made sense when you understood how they worked. 6 months later, I met Rebecca. We crossed paths at a poker night hosted by one of the parts suppliers. She laughed at my dumb jokes. Called me Mr. Stats after I explained the difference between implied probability and raw odds. She didn't roll her eyes. She leaned in closer. We saw each other again the next week. Then again. After 2 months, she moved in. No drama. No games. We're planning our wedding this fall. As for Amanda, she's still working that ice cream cart down at the park. I saw her once from a distance. Still beautiful. She didn't see me. And I didn't stop. Share your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever spent the night with your ex? If you liked the story, subscribe to the channel and give us a like.